Now that we've explored the concept of inputs, we're ready to move on to outputs. Outputs are used in order to create custom events that send data from your component to the outside world. There's a few steps involved in creating our output event and then using it. So what we want to do is send some information from our nested component to our parent component and then display that information in the parent component. So the first thing that we do is we create a property assigned to an output, similar to how we created an input property. The difference is we're using an event emitter. So let's dissect this a little bit. An event emitter is an object that listens for something to happen and then publishes an event when triggered. This is what's known as the observer pattern. So say we create a new event emitter named notify in our child component. Now, our child component has become a publisher and is going to be used to send data up to its parent using the emit method. The parent component now becomes a subscriber to the notify output. And this means that when notify has emitted this send message string, it will be automatically picked up by the parent and can then be used in a method defined in our parent component. The process of setting up an output to send events from child to parent works like this. So first, we open up our child component file and we import output and event emitter from Angular core. Then we define an output with a decorator followed by a property name. In this case, we'll use the name notify. Notify is of type event emitter. So remember, event emitter is an object. And since it's an object, it also has a type. And that's what these greater than less than symbols known as a generic are doing. It's setting up this event emitter to a type of string. So generic is a feature of TypeScript that simply defines the type of an instance, such as an object instance or a function instance. So we set notify as type event emitter and set it equal to a new instance of event emitter that is of type string, and then we invoke our event emitter using parentheses. We're using a type of string here because we're going to be emitting a value that is a string. But event emitters can be of type any. They can be of type string, number, boolean, or interface, for example. Now we need to set up a method that does something with our output property. So in our child component HTML, when a user clicks a button, we're going to trigger the onClick method. The onClick method will in turn use our notify property and emit a string of message from child. Now there's two steps that we need to take in our parent in order to display our child's message. The first is in our parent HTML file. So inside of our child selector, we need to wrap our notify property in parentheses. So this is our event watcher that gets triggered anytime someone clicks this button in our child. We then set this equal to a method we'll create inside of the parent. This $event parameter stores whatever has been emitted from the child. In this case, it's going to store the message from child string. Now in our parent, we create the onNotifyClicked method. Then inside here, we're just going to set the message we received equal to a property called showMessage. Then we can display our message using interpolation inside of our parent HTML file. So when somebody clicks a button in our child component, we'll see the string message from child inside of this showMessage property inside of our parent. Now let's walk through this process inside of our application. So I'll start off by opening up our favorites component, and I'm going to import both of our output as well as our event emitter classes. And now I'm going to add our output property right below our input. So we'll say @output. And let's name our property notify, which is going to be of type event emitter. and our event emitter is going to be a string. And then we need to set it equal to a new event emitter, which is of type string, and then we need to invoke it. And the next thing is to create a method in this favorite component that's going to do something with our notify event. So we'll go down here and we'll name our method onClick, which is of type void since it doesn't return anything, but it is going to send a message up to the parent. So we'll say this.notify.emit is going to send the message from child. Now let's go ahead and add a button in our favorite component HTML file in order to trigger this output method. So below hello world, we'll add a new div container that's going to contain a button, and we'll add some bootstrap styling here that's going to be button info, and we'll add the text trigger notify inside of our button. And inside our div is where we're going to add our onClick event handler. So we'll say when this button is clicked, we want to trigger the onClick method that we just defined in our component. So with that set up, let's now add this notify property inside of our books list HTML file inside of our child selector. So right now we have our BS favorite child selector already defined. So we can add another one here. So right now we have reviews equaling book.book reviews. So we'll go ahead and add our notify event property and then set it equal to a method that we'll create in our component, which will be called onNotifyClicked. And it's going to contain the event that's being sent from the child component. So when a user clicks this button right here in our favorite component, it's going to trigger this method and it's going to send the event, which is a string message. So we want to display that message somewhere in our parent, and to do that we'll add an h2 tag right below this container, and we're going to call this show message. So show message is going to display the message that was emitted from the child up to the parent. Now let's open up our books list component, and I'm actually going to clean this up a little bit. So let's remove onChanges and onInit, and then we'll get rid of this implements. I'll get rid of these two methods that we defined, as well as this change method and the animals property. So first I'll define a property for the show message, and it's going to be of type string, and it's going to equal, we'll just say test for now. And this is going to change when we get back the event from our child. So let's go down here and define our onNotify method. So we'll say onNotifyClicked. And this is going to contain the parameter of the event that we received back from the favorite component. And it's going to be of type string. And this method is going to be of type void also. And then we'll just set our show message property to be equal to the message that we received. And if we set this up correctly, we should expect that when we click this trigger notify button, an event will be emitted from our component with the message from child delivered to its parent of book list component, and then it's going to show in this show message property that we defined in the HTML right here. So first we get our test, because that's what we're displaying in show message. Then if I hit this trigger notify, it gets changed to message from child.